Good evening, good people. How are you doing? I know that you will start to pop on here any second now. So that would be great. It'd be lovely to have you. Let me adjust this thing. Welcome, Ifwa. Thank you for jumping on here. Welcome to the Speak with Dilys show, the 8th episode. You know, we're more than halfway through now. So very soon, there will be no Speak with Dilys. We're not on Facebook anyway. So lovely to have you guys on here. Welcome. Oh, I can see some hearts thing. That's new. That looks nice. Thank you for jumping on here. I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired today. I'm not going to lie. I struggled a bit today. A little bit tired. As I said, I've got a pain in my right knee. I don't know what happened. Vida Welbeck. Hi. Thank you for jumping on here. Hi, Emissy Parker. I say, Kumbala Bell, looking fabulous. Thank you very much. Very lovely of you to say. Great to have you, Aisha. Abana Asantawa. Guys, do share the video. If 5 of you could share, that would be great. And we can get cracking pretty soon. But you know, I'm going to ask you guys how you are feeling this evening, because this is important. Tinuola, that's how you pronounce it. Let me not be pronouncing like Munyibu. Thank you for jumping on here. Wonderful to have you. It's always great to have you guys. As I was saying, this is the 8th episode of Speak with Dilys. There's 13, no it's not. Yes, 8 episodes we've done so far. And there's 13 in total, so we are more than halfway through. So yes, I hope you have enjoyed it so far. So tell me, how have you enjoyed the topics that we've discussed on this show so far? Just give me your comments in the comments box and I'll read them out of what you've enjoyed. So we've spoken about how women can take other women's men. We've spoken about that. We're going to be speaking about mama's boys. We've spoken about colorism. We've spoken about boarding schools. Hey, Ros Labi, how are you doing? Lovely to have you on here. Ros has been my old-time friend from when I was young and beautiful. When I was like, what, 13 years old. And I'm going to be 50 in August. So do your maths, yeah? Do your maths. So yes, it's great to always have new people on here. It's always a pleasure. Nana Yao and Tim, lovely to have you on here. Daniel Apia Baidu, thank you. Ayo, how are you doing? Ayo says, good evening for now. The big issue is the continued abduction of school kids. Well, actually, that's not the issue for today. We are talking about, is it possible for a woman to raise a male child? We're very focused on this show. We don't like to deviate. We want to be able to, you know, have structured conversations. So that is the topic of today. Nana Yao says, you're still super beautiful though. Thank you very much. Ade says, diverse topics, very relevant. Thank you very much. Michaela Joy said, wow, looking gorgeous. Oh, I'm getting so many nice compliments today. Is it the purple lipstick? Daniela Pierre Baidu is watching. I'll tell you what, basically, of course, everybody knows that we're in lockdown in England. And I just felt like dressing up like I was going out. I was saying that I got this top about 16 years ago. Actually, it's supposed to be a dress, but it's super short. And my legs ain't what they used to be. So it would never be worn as a dress. It would just be worn as a top. And that's the story behind the look tonight, because I just felt like I wanted to dress up like I was going out. Anyway, Vivian Breeze Vanderpoy is in the house. Lovely to have you. Another old-time friend of mine from school. So yeah, we've been friends for too long. Is it Melly? Peace Melt. Greetings to you too. Shell Robinson, how are you doing? You definitely don't look 50. I'm not, I'm 49. I've got a few months to go. I'm 50 on the 11th of August. I take checks, I take postal orders, I take MoneyGram, I do direct transfers, whatever you want to do. You can save up your money and you can bless a sister, you know, for her 50th. It's all up to you. I'm not proud. So yes, Yamasi Parker says in the house. Tina Men said it's the whole show for me. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you guys have enjoyed it. Let me take some water. Okay, guys. So, hi, Marie. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed the show thus far. Ifwa Duku says, I have genuinely been empowered with great insights from your show since the lockdown in Ghana. Oh, yes. That's when the Speak with Dilys show started. That's true. And now able to disassociate from irrelevant issues and etc. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that it has made an impact. Tinuola says, very informative. I'm glad. And like I said, it's not just about me. This has been an amazing two-way conversation. There's a lot of very powerful comments and content that has been given to me from you guys. You know, the comments that you make in response, the personal experiences that you have also shared on here has made it very, very relevant. So, you know, I'm very grateful for your time that some of you have shown up consistently every single Sunday at 8 o'clock. I see you all the time and I really appreciate it. I always, you know, give Ifwa props. You know, I could do something of me just coughing and that would be shared on her timeline. So I really do appreciate it. Julia Roberts is in the house, another regular chick on here, whom I really do appreciate. Hello, Denise. You know what? I better stop because I'm going to like do shout outs for the whole evening. Peter Hasley says, of course it is, proved many times, but I would like to think that men, dads, have an important, even essential role. Sadly, too many don't step up. That's true. So that would be, I think it's going to be an excellent debate today. Let's just see. Okay. Ayo, rather. Like I said, this show, we focus on what the topic is for today, because once one person says something off track, then it becomes a mess. And there's one thing I like about my show is order, because there's always something valuable that I think needs to be discussed as to why I'm quite focused. By all means, if you have ideas of what you would like me to speak about or what you would like to discuss on here, then let me know. But when we're discussing the show, we gotta focus because we've only got an hour, less than now. Okay, so why do I do the Speak with Dilys show? Because I believe that there's information that needs to be heard. I believe we need to talk about things that matter, people who count, and information that needs to be heard. I think that we as individuals have a very important role to play within our communities, and that we should not leave the responsibility of making certain changes up to government or even churches. Individually, we can and should do something to be that change. And that is why I like to have these conversations, so that we can take personal responsibility to just at least consider these conversations and address some of the things that we have done from time immemorial that is not necessarily serving us. So that's why the Speak with Dilys show exists. As you know, I'm now on radio as of last week on Injection Radio, but I will talk to you about that a little bit later. So tonight on the Speak with Dilys show, Mama's Boys, can a woman raise a man? My voice isn't deep or sexy enough, but for those that haven't had the da-da-dums that's gone round, let me just read to you what it's about. And whilst I'm doing this, do 5 of you, if you could just share this video and invite people on here to come and have a watch. And also, you know, I think one of the topics that we discussed was, is there any justifiable reason for a mother to stop her children from seeing their father? So that's another one that we've done. Now we're looking at the relevance of men being in the lives of male children. Okay, so what are we talking about? Let's cut to the chase. Can a woman raise a man? We've heard all sorts of arguments around the raising of boys with the ideal of having a man raise them. But if circumstances mean that's not possible, how can society expect these boys to turn out? What challenges lay ahead for the mothers raising them and the boys they raised? Is it that a man must be present in body only, and this will suffice in fulfilling the role of a male figure? Does it take more than this? Are both mother and son doomed in the absence of a man being in the home? Mama's Boy, 8th episode of Speak with Dilys. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Aisha says, there are many good men out there that are good citizens, good husbands and fathers, and they were raised by single mothers. Indeed. Sherelle says, good evening, blessings, good evening to you, my love. How are you? Okay, guys, so this is the background of what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to start from this point. Hi, Becky, how are you doing? Lovely to have you on here. There is a general belief that a man is required to be in the home to raise a son or to raise a boy child, yeah? Today, we're going to look at how true that is and if it's possible. In the absence of that male figure, is there any chance young boys can grow up to be balanced, responsible, and emotionally balanced individuals? Is it possible? So Theo Alatate, thanks for joining, as well as Sharon Melis, lovely to have you on here, and Anaya and Tim as well. Is it possible to be able to do that job properly? And when we talk about having a male figure in the home or a man raising a boy child, what does that actually look like? Because when I said that I wanted to discuss this topic, or this topic was worth discussing, the immediate defense for some people was that it wasn't possible that a woman could raise a male child. That if she tried to, there would be something seriously lacking. One person, as I said, made the comment that if a woman raises a man, he will be emotionally unbalanced and take on the personality of his mother. I mean, to be honest with you, that's just ridiculous. Let's just be frank here. Like, seriously. But this is what some people actually believe. But then I also feel that we need to look at what we mean by raising. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm going to throw a bit of culture in here. There are some cultures that the children are left very much for the mother to raise, whether they're male, whether they're female. The men don't really get involved, yet they are in the house. So is it that we are just saying the mere presence of a man in the house is somehow going to teach a boy, how to be a man? Because if that's the case, then we would need to delve a little bit deeper into that and then ask ourselves whether passive parenting is effective. Because if we are not being intentional about what we're teaching our children and being focused in how we are doing that, how is it possible that just by mere presence, somehow that male child knows how to be a responsible male adult and contribute to society as if he had the influence of his father? And are we saying that by virtue of the fact that the person raising them predominantly is female, based on their gender alone, they are not able to raise a responsible, well-balanced male child? Let me see what some of you are saying. Denise says, I believe a woman can raise a man once you give that child space to develop, who know who they are, and mostly and importantly, learn how to respect and value themselves as well as others. And this is the other thing I was going to speak about. Where does value come into all of this? Because if we're saying that you can only raise a male child by having a man present, then that surely can't be true. Because all the men that we see around us who have got issues, some of them did have their fathers in the home. So what went wrong? Clearly there must be something extra that is required to raise a boy child. Somebody said on here, and I'm going to read some of the comments that I've had previously, I have raised 4 boys and they turned out pretty good. So clearly there is something that a woman can contribute in raising her children by herself. I think that to a degree there is a bit of defensiveness from the men that comes into it because they feel that, well, at the end of the day, women are trying to make it look like we are irrelevant. And I understand that argument as well. And then you have other, family setups, whether you've got, a gay couple who are 2 females saying, well, we don't need a man. There's an argument for and against. And the go-to argument is always, well, it's better to raise a child in a loving home than to raise them with 2 parents of the opposite sex that have da-da-da-da-da. So we've heard all of that. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to say that a man is not relevant in raising his child. Let me hold that thought for a minute. Let me read some of your comments. Aisha Ankra says, there are also good men out there that had fathers in the home that were there, but were not really there, meaning they worked a lot, or if they just did not spend time with the kids. With just the point I was making, very true. Michelle Joyce Tete says, I have a son, well balanced, he is respectful, so I take it you're a single parent. Theo Alate says, I think there is always a man involved, whether the real father or stepfather role models. Yes, to a degree. Yes, there is. But that would be the person that the child sees, maybe from arm's length, maybe not necessarily teaching him how to be a man. And I will read you a comment that somebody else made. The person said, a woman can't teach her son about wet dreams. We all know what wet dreams are. Nor a man teach his daughter about periods. And I had to debunk that because, being a young girl, when I started my periods, it wasn't my mum I went to. At the time, I was in England with my dad. And it's my dad that went and got me a pack of sanitary towels and told me how to use them. When I went back to Ghana, I never even told my mum. I just spoke to my dad. When my late husband died, it wasn't my mum I wanted, it was my dad. So that kind of debunks the whole argument of you can't teach. Yes, you can teach. Because there's certain things that, irrespective of whether you're of the same sex or not, you can't feel for your child. So I gave this person the example of having a group of mothers and trying to tell a woman who hadn't yet given birth what labor feels like. It doesn't matter how much you describe it, it's still going to be a very unique and painful experience for that woman. How different would it have been for a man to have said to a woman, I mean, you do have male obstetricians, so how different would it have been for a man to have said, look, labor's like this, labor's like that. It doesn't matter. You know, even if you're a man and you're teaching your son about wet dreams, he's the one having the wet dream. You're not going to be able to tell him in intricate detail how it feels because he's got to feel it for himself. So when it comes to the teaching element, I am not personally convinced that a woman cannot teach a man or teach a boy and a man cannot teach a girl. Even judging by my own experience, from that little experience that I had with my dad at the age of, well, you don't need to know how old I was when that happened, but you get my drift. So when we say that it's not possible, what do we think is not possible? And is it that there is some bias there for that because you feel that men are being robbed of their rightful place within the home? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. If you have an answer to that, put it in the comments and definitely I'm going to read it out. Somebody else said, no, she can't raise a man on her own. It's not possible. But the point is, as I said, in some cultures, you have the woman that is left predominantly. I do this every week. I mess up my words at least every week. Anyway, you have cultures where you've got certain cultures that will leave the rearing of children to the woman, including male children. You have couples who are married, and whether it's the fact that the man works away or works a lot, you've got, women who are at army barracks because their husbands are off, at war and what have you. Who is raising those children at that time? It's the women. They are the ones that are instilling their values in those children, at long-term intervals. And if you look at how children form their personalities and characteristics from the age of 0 to 7, and where their character is formed, their formative years are predominantly spent with their mothers. So when we say that a woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man, I think that we need to dissect that statement and look at it a bit more. That's not to say that men are not relevant. And I think the reason why we have this defensiveness when these topics are being discussed is because there is an underlying undertone that some men are hearing that they are not relevant and they are not needed, which is absolutely not true. Ike, thank you for joining. Belladonna, thank you for joining. Lynette says, live, hey Dilys, glad I didn't miss this live. Thank you so much for jumping on here. Khadija Silla, how are you doing? My son talks and listens to their fathers more than me. That happens too. Sapak Ventures, thank you for being on here. And again, there are some cultures where the woman, even though she spends more time with the children, the male children don't have to show that much respect to their mothers. And I've seen a little bit of that before. Cheryl says, I hear a lot of men say that they are able to be independent and self-sufficient because of their mothers. That's very true. They had to get involved with household duties and look after their siblings. This gives them experience for the future. That is a beautiful comment, and that's absolutely right. Hi, Justina, how are you doing? You're very right, because I was a single parent for some time. I'm a single parent again because I'm now widowed. But with my son, when I did become a single parent, I did feel that, look, you need to learn how to do certain things. And one of them was cooking. One of them was cleaning. I felt that those things were very, important for a male child. Now, sometimes when you have fathers around, they tend to think, some fathers, not all, that it is unmanly for the boys to get involved in household chores. So the girls are left to do, and you'd be surprised how many, stereotypes that we still feed into even today, 2021. You will be surprised. So when we have those kind of comments and boys being raised in that way, do we not think that there is some negativity there that sometimes can be purported by the father? Also, I want to bring to the table toxic masculinity. And again, this is not to say that fathers are not relevant. Listen, I've had my dad all my life, okay? But what I'm saying is we have to look at the contribution that both the mother makes in the household and the father makes in the household before we make a blanket statement that if you're a woman and you're a single parent, that you are therefore incapable of raising a well-balanced contributor to society by virtue of the fact that you have a woman raising that person. Is that what we're saying? Sorry, I'm really thirsty today. Is that what we're saying? Because if that's what we're saying, then that would mean that any woman that has raised a male child on her own has failed at parenthood. Let's be honest. There is no middle ground here. If we're saying that a woman cannot raise a male child, then we're saying that you have failed at parenthood and that you are doomed if you do not have a man around. But then let's discuss the different types of single parenthood. Because a lot of times when these statements are made against women who are single parents, there's an inference or an assumption that the woman chose to be a single parent. Some of us are single parents due to circumstances. In my situation, I am now a single parent because I have been bereaved. Okay, so my son is older, but I'm a single parent to my daughter, as of now, till I, get married or something happens. This is my current status in terms of bringing up my daughter. There are single parents who have become single parents because the men just didn't step up. There are women who are single parents because they're divorced. There are women who are single parents through many different circumstances. Are we saying that from the moment that man walks out of the door or passes away, that child and that mother are doomed? Because if that's what we're saying, then that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I was thinking, how does that make sense? And are we saying if you have a man and a woman in the house, that male child automatically is going to be well balanced? Because when we talk of toxic masculinity, there are certain things that our sons are taught that's not positive. I just mentioned that some cultures, the boys are not really taught to respect their mothers or women generally. And I have seen it firsthand. Just that being the kind of parent I am, I won't have it. I won't have it. I will make sure that, so with my son, he was more scared of me than his dad because I just wouldn't have it. And because I knew that I was raising a male child, I was far more intentional with my discipline, with what I felt he needed to know as a young man. I remember saying to my son that he needed to learn how to cook. The reason being, I didn't want my son to be those kind of men that because of food, they would eat any and anywhere because a woman was offering food. And I remember saying to my son, a man that eats anywhere, sleeps anywhere. A man that eats anywhere, sleeps anywhere. So I thought, let me teach you how to cook so you're not a dirty boy. Okay, Karen, who is Isabel's godmother, says, yes, they can. Can they do it well? Yes, they can. Can the rearing be better if there is also positive male influence? Definitely, yes. Father, uncle, grandfather, positive male friend, the village theory, 100%. I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Somebody else has written a comment. None of y'all said, if for instance, frustrates a young boy when the mum prevents the boy from showing his affection for his dad. I don't understand, babe. You need to write that out again for me and I will read it. It wasn't very clear for me. Sorry. Aisha says it doesn't take a man to raise a boy. Well, that's true. I'll read that again. It doesn't take a man to raise a boy. I do believe that as a woman, you can raise a very, very well-balanced male child. Aisha Anko says, some can say in the absence of a real connection, boys become more vulnerable to exaggerated masculine norms. Well, this is what I was saying. You're absolutely right. That sometimes the toxic masculinity that is portrayed as to what, a man is supposed to be like can be very, very damaging. I work in the area of child abuse, rape and domestic violence. Now, the domestic violence thing is huge. And is there a male figure there? Yeah, hell yeah, there's a male figure there. But is he doing what he should be doing as a father in the home? No. And because he's not doing what he should be doing in the home, what we are raising in our young men is toxic masculinity. It is a distorted view of who they are supposed to be. It's enforcing a level of emotional retardation that would not be there if the fathers in those instances were not present. What am I saying? I'm saying that life is about balance. In an ideal world, everybody should have their mother and father under the same roof, living happily ever after. That's not my story. That's not my story. And I do not believe that because that's not my story, that the children that Dilys Series will bring into this world are going to be useless because, their father is not there. No, I don't believe that at all. I think that being a good parent requires many different facets in order to raise a balanced child, irrespective of the gender. Because the things that we don't know, we can learn. But if we're saying that just by virtue of the fact that a man is in the house, no, I know families where as soon as the dad comes from work, back in the day, the kids run away because they're so scared of their dads that there isn't even a relationship there. And the other thing that you have to also appreciate is where children are being raised in that type of an environment, their mindset towards relationships is very, very warped. And because it's warped, they themselves don't go into healthy relationships and therefore don't become healthy parents. So what they are witnessing in their childhood is having a direct impact on who they become as adults. Now, who they become as adults in those circumstances is not the same as people making an assumption that a woman cannot be effective as a mother in raising her male child if the man isn't there. So you can see that it's not as black and white as we would like to convince ourselves to be. The same way with mothers, I would never advocate and agree that it doesn't matter if the fathers are not involved. When we did the other show, we spoke about the relevance of children knowing who their fathers are, how it's very important, not to separate children from their fathers, good fathers, and how in doing so, it has an adverse effect on them, even down to the type of cancers that they may experience in adulthood and other health issues. So this is not an episode of, hey ladies, chuck away your husbands and your child's fathers. That is not what this show is about. This is about having that balance so that women who have been left as single parents, like myself, through no fault of my own, that we can feel empowered enough to do a good job. Because if we keep telling these mothers, and they constantly hear in the back of their minds that, no, you're not going to be a good parent because you're raising a male child, and what do you know about raising a man? That's actually nonsense, because there is a lot that you can teach about, you can teach your child. One of them being how a woman would like to be treated, the kind of husband they need to be. I did that with my son. Whether he goes and does it is entirely his prerogative, but he has been taught. There are men that are at home with their sons who don't teach these things. And that's what you call passive parenting, where you've left your child or your children to figure it out themselves, but you're just there. And a lot of parents are like that, where they don't sit down with their children and teach them about lessons of life. I do that with my daughter. My daughter knows about money, about finances, about the responsibilities that a man should have if he wants to date her in the future. I have taught her those things, coming away from some of the very damaging stereotypes that we've started to push men and women into, that doesn't allow for us to come together in a structured way to be able to raise positive and healthy families. Okay. Nana Yao and Tim says, in broken homes, some mothers don't want their boys to show affection for their dads. Oh, I see what you mean. But then that's just messed up. And, I could never advocate for that because it's important. But this is more about mothers that are being told that they can't do a good job because they are on their own raising male children. So that's the opinions that I would like you guys to share. Sherelle says the parenting needs to be balanced in order to pass it forward to their children. It's about breaking the cycle and communicating. Yes, absolutely it is. It is very much about breaking the cycle. Khadija says a woman can raise a boy and he can be a better person in society. He absolutely can. And I'm going to give you some examples later on. Belladonna says, in numerous nuclear families, even with a loving, respectable and responsible father, it is mothers who raise the children. Fathers usually assume the roles of provider and disciplinarian. Somebody made a comment earlier on that her sons listen to the dad more than her. So that kind of basically just to buttress your point. Fathers usually assume the roles of providers and disciplinarian. Some are too busy being providers to even know what's going on in their homes, unless the mother informs them. How is it much different when it's a single mother? This is the part of the argument that I usually do not get. Well, you know what, you've just killed the argument right there, because what you've said is exactly spot on. And as I mentioned before, that there are men who are physically there in the home, but when it comes to the actual rearing of the children, they're not the ones doing that job. So when we're talking about, a man being the only person that can actually teach a man to be a man, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. There are some men who have never had a conversation with their sons about being a provider for their home. I've told you, this show is not about political correctness. This show is about keeping it real so that you can keep your homes together. So here, I don't feed into the stereotype, but a woman can work. Of course a woman can work, and a woman does work, and I work. And I support myself, and I always have done within my marriage. But it was never, neither of us were under any illusion that you have a greater responsibility. If I'm carrying the children, you have a greater responsibility to provide. Because if something were to happen and I can't, let's say I'm having a bad pregnancy, I should not be the one to be looked at to provide for the home. So here, like I said, if it's proof of whether this kind of stuff works, I can show you so many examples that when we come out of what the media tries to teach us about home and relationship and marriage and love and whatever, we can be more real in the relationships that we are in. And this is what I want for many of us, that we can be real and we can have honest conversations about the roles that we need to play and be proud playing those roles. We are in a society now where we tell men that they are of no relevance and we tell women that we can do it all. But we can't do it all and we don't want to. And you men are relevant. But we have to strike the balance and also be able to have honest and open conversations on what we have to do when you're not there. Like I said, I've been widowed. What am I supposed to do? So I'm in a situation now where I am a single parent. I did not ask to be in this position. So I would be interested to know how anyone can say to me that, Dilys, your parenting becomes null and void because you have lost your husband. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Henrietta says, on the topic of toxic masculinity, can I mention Governor B's book, Unspoken, Toxic Masculinity and How I Face the Man Within the Man? Great book. Oh, well, that's just great. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. And if you've got a link, that would be even better. So thanks for that. Listen, this show is not about me. It's about us. It's about us being able to change our world, our immediate world, ourselves, starting with us, i.e. starting with me, Dilys. How you are able to change your world, starting with you, and how that affects your family, how that spills onto your community. That's what this show is about. So by all means, share your views. If you agree, great. If you don't agree, great. Let's just continue to have this conversation because it is very important. Now, I know that Ade did post something and I'm trying to find it now. Let me scroll up. Ade, where's your comment? Where's it gone? All right, there it is. Oh. Guys, Facebook is kind of being a bit weird. But yes, I think that we're getting somewhere. If we're getting somewhere, give me a thumbs up. If what I'm saying is resonating with you, or there's something that I've missed, by all means put it in the comments box. But tell me, how are you guys feeling thus far about this topic? Have we been able to debunk some of these myths, or are we still believing that men cannot be raised by women. Ade, could you cut and paste your comment again for me? Because for some reason I saw it, clicked on it, and I can't see it anymore. So if you are still watching, I would like to read out your comment. So do post it for me. So yes, I see a lot of thumbs up. So I take it that y'all are feeling good. Excellent. Excellent. If you're circled, to thank you for joining. Lovely to have you on here. And Abna Asantua. Lynette says, as a young girl, the male was absent in my home a lot of the time. My stepdad was never around or present for as a result, my mother was a lone parent of 5, me being the eldest when I was nearly 6. My brothers were the youngest, no role model. They both went astray, got into bad company. Us girls followed mother's footsteps, did what we needed to do to survive, made our own money as soon as we could at 16. Okay? Yemisi Parker says, great topic. By all means, men can be raised by women. Amen. Yes, they can. I think we have established enough examples to show that, yes, we can do that job. But do we need help in being able to do it? Yes, we do. But we've got to look at when there is not an ideal case scenario in making that happen, how can we do it? What does it mean, really, to be a positive role model to a male child? I think... You guys tell me what you think. What makes a positive role model to a male child? Give me your comments and I'm going to read them out. But for me personally, I believe, and I know, in fact, I know that a male child will have his mother as a positive role model, will believe the mother is a positive role model, as well as their father. I don't believe that a child thinks that a man is not a positive, a mother is not a positive role model just because she's a mother. Somebody wants to come on. Okay, I'm gonna invite you on here because every so often it is good to have. Thanks, Adi. I've just seen your comment. I'm adding somebody to this live now and seeing what they're saying. Guys, if you're on here and you're enjoying this conversation, could just 5 of you at random just share this video and see what's going on. I'm trying to add this person. They haven't come up as yet. Okay. Ade says, it is universally accepted that a woman can raise sons to grow up with the core values of being hardworking, kind, driven, ambitious, and being a man. This, of course, is on the proviso that mum still has an amicable relationship with her son's dad, and their uncoupling was conscious. If not, that would impact on her view of men. Not necessarily. I can say that as somebody who did not have the privilege of breaking up amicably, and it had no bearing on my relationship with my son, to be honest. That's just throw that in there a little bit. That said, there is value of having a positive male role model when boys are growing up. This is because boys learn male attributes from an older male, be it dad or uncles or family friends. In particular, they observe how these men treat or mistreat women folk and traverse society as a male. The flip side is mummy's boy, who is doted on to a fault. A few years ago, I became dangerously close to a friend whose hubby was the archetypal one. She shared details about how she raised the kids, was responsible for finances, schoolwork, travel, decisions, etc. And he was happy to defer to her. His mum constantly criticized his wife. Sadly, he never once stood up to his mama or defended my friend. I can't stand men like that. They're such wimps. In fact, I did a show about that, your mama or your wife. That was in the first series. So do go look for that. Very, very interesting topic, especially you men. You benefit a lot from watching that. Anna goes on to say, I have a suggestion. Anita, please don't banish me from this platform. I'm willing to set up a commune in a remote village where mums can enroll, and I will provide my services as a positive male role model. Dilys can fund the project from her injection radio wages, tongue firmly in cheek. I'm going to punch you, Anna. One of these days, I really will have you in a headlock. That's an excellent comment. And always your views are very much appreciated and always add some great value. So thank you very much for that. Mercy says, I have my 11-year-old son listening. I believe I'm raising him well. Even though I chose to end my marriage, I did so mainly because I needed to give my son a better chance at being in a happy, non-abusive home. I didn't want him to see behaviors that are not of good character and influence the way he would treat a woman. He has other positive male role models, and I believe that's also important. I'm exactly with you, Mercy. You know, exactly, you know, my circumstances to a great degree. So yes, and this is what I was alluding to before, that sometimes in order to raise those balanced young men that we're being told by virtue of the fact that because we're women we are not able to do, we take them out of the home that we believe is actually going to make them a negative member of society, a member of society that cannot, you know, contribute as well as they can do if the male role model remained. So, and this is why I'm talking about balance, that it's not always black and white. Life sometimes is many, many shades of gray. So in this situation, how do we look at this lady and say, oh, well, because you are raising the child on your own, they're going to be unbalanced, and some of the other, you know, stereotypical and things that have been said. You know, yes, the point of mamas raising mummies boys, let me tell you something, you do not have to be a single parent to raise a mama's boy. Let's be honest here. Let's debunk that one for now. There are women who are married to their husbands, have raised their kids with their husbands, and they raised mummy's boys. And it's got nothing to do with single parenthood. It's got everything to do with those women just having an unhealthy relationship with their son, such that when they go on to get married or try and have a relationship with another woman, the mothers act like rivals. I have done a show on this called Your Mama or Your Wife. Go watch it. It's in series 1. It's on the fan page. Just look for the video and watch it. It is very, very interesting and a real eye-opener. Hi, Shirley Ann Asafo Boache. Lovely to have you on here. Jacqueline Bruce Tago. Lovely to have you. Yemisi says, a positive role model is that person who helps mold a young person's character. Help them form good core values of hard work, integrity, and balance. They can be male or female. When a single mom raises a man, she benefits from the support of a positive male influence. It can be a brother, friend, or relative. 100%. Aisha says, role model. Whoops. Releasing our emotions, whatever they may be. Oh gosh, as the comments are coming fast and furious, it keeps pushing the comments up. Okay, so let me read this quickly. Role model, releasing our emotions, whatever they may be, is healthy and reduces stress. How we go about doing that in front of our children, however, has major consequences. As difficult as it may be, it's essential to practice self-control as much as possible in front of our children. Bite your tongue and control that temper. If need be, take it out at the gym or go for a run. Brilliant advice. Excellent advice. And it's not easy being a single parent. It's very hard. Take it from me. It is difficult, but it is rewarding. But you know, it can be very challenging. Lynette says, I put my hands up and say that as a mother of a boy child, I didn't have the experience knowing what was needed. Too much to tell. I identified that I had resentment towards my own father and knew I needed to deal with that underlying feeling. Otherwise, my son may not benefit in his rearing. And you see, this is why I love having these conversations, because at some point, we hold up the mirror to ourselves and we ask ourselves what we really look like. And I like that because it takes a big person to be able to look and say, okay, this area here needs attention, or I thought I was doing it right, but I was actually doing it wrong, or actually this is a better way of me doing it. So enough respect to you for recognizing that you had those issues with your father and therefore you needed to address them so that you could be more present as a parent. The book that I wrote, my first book, Predator or Prince, How to Find the Man of Your Dreams, Not Your Nightmares, I talk a lot about parenthood and the value that you know, men bring into the home as fathers and how important it is to have them. And I talk about the effects of not having them. That, and I think I mentioned this when I was talking about the show where I was saying that should a mother ever be justified in separating her children from a father who is no threat to her or her child. And I was saying that, you know, there's no such thing as an absent father, that in the mind of a child, that father exists. Whether they choose the persona as being one of a hero or one of a villain is dependent on the child. Now, whichever one they choose then determines the kind of lifestyle that they live and the relationships that they have moving forward and the kind of parent they become. So it's very deep. And it's something that, you know, I'm glad we're discussing so that we can be more conscious of it. So those of us who are, you know, single parents, as women, that you don't feel that you are doomed and that you're not going to be able to do a good job just because you're a woman. You are going to be able to do a fabulous job. It's about support. It's about information. It's about education. It's about listening. It's about learning. It's about finding those role models that you may, and you know what, let's not always assume that we can find positive role models in the home. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes, I mean, I had a call from somebody during the week, and most of the men in the family are sexual predators. That's the family that she comes from. So if there's a home, and you know, that's predominantly formed of sexual predators, then you can imagine the kind of violence and damage that there is in that household. So raising a male child in that household or in that environment is going to be challenging. Does it mean that that woman would not be able to raise a well-balanced male child? No, it doesn't. It means she has to recognize the environment that she's in, remove herself from it, and find positive role models. It's just like teaching Black history. You get a damn book and you read and you educate. So when you look at a situation where you don't come from a home where you could have a male role model, you know, to pick on or to grab or to phone, or to take your child out to the park or what have you, what you can do is sit down and educate your child on, this man is a positive role model. This is what he did. This brother did that. This person did this. Teach, educate. There is no such thing as passive parenting. No such thing. The fact that you live under one roof with your child does not mean that you are a parent. It just means that you live in the house with your child. It is important that you sit down and you have these conversations and you teach your child how to be responsible. You teach your child about things like money. You teach your child about relationships. But it's not just about what you say, it's also about how you live. And I'm not saying that some of us haven't made mistakes. Some of us have made grave mistakes, myself included. But what you have to do is be able to correct those mistakes. Sometimes your kids may not be too, how can I put it, forgiving, or may not be open to being teachable because of their age or their personality type. But you as a parent don't ever have to stop improving yourself and being that example to your children, regardless of their age and regardless of your gender. Okay, so Bella says, some men have not fully developed into men by the time they have children. So they really do not have substantial core values to impart. Wow, okay, we're going somewhere. They're still figuring themselves out and learning on the job. That is so deep. And I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read it slowly. Some men have not fully developed into men by the time they have children. Some men have not fully developed into men by the time they have children. So they really do not have substantial core values to impart. They are still figuring themselves out and learning on the job. Did you guys hear that? I think Belladonna deserves a round of applause, because that comment right there is exactly what I'm talking about. That the fact that the person is a man, the fact that he has been able to father a child does not make him a positive role model such that he has the ability, the knowledge and the power and the know-how to raise a son. Some of you men, check how you speak to the mothers of your children, your wives, your girlfriends, your partners. Check how you speak to them in the presence of your sons. What are you teaching them? That this is how you treat a woman. And this goes on a lot. So, you know, there are so many things that contribute to being a positive role model for your son. These are the things you need to look at. You also need to look at the fact that you need to get up and go and work. Get off your backside and work. When they see daddy not doing anything, it is not helpful. If you're not with the mother of your child, and for whatever reason you're not paying child support, it's another negative impression that you are giving to your children, both male and female, on what it means to be a man. When a child is able to point to something and say, oh, my daddy brought me that, it's so different from when we mums do it. I'm telling you, the father somehow validates his children in a way that we mothers sometimes aren't able to, if the father is a positive role model. I'm telling you, when my daughter was small and she'd get ready, she would run to her dad to ask him if she looked pretty. She wouldn't ask me. she would run to her father for that validation. So as I said, this is by no means trying to suggest or infer that you men are not of immense value. But what I think we're trying to say here is that if you're going to do it right. Don't assume that just because you are there, that your child is better off just because you're there. That's not good enough. You need to be present in spirit, body, mind, and soul. You need to be there in every sense of the word. You need to take up the role of teaching your son intentionally of what it means to be a man, on what his responsibilities are. You know, little things. I remember, I am a woman, clearly, and I remember telling my son that when you take a girl out on a date, that's your shout. If you cannot afford to take her out on the date, don't invite her. I said, don't disgrace me by ever taking any woman out on a date, or any girl out on a date, and asking her to pay half the bill. What kind of nonsense, bush, rubbish life is that? You know, these little things. We want to teach men about chivalry and, you know, importance and class and commitment. It starts in the little things. You know, if there was any man that ever asked me out on a date and said, can we go? I don't know such men anyway, so I will never have that kind of a problem. And I think you women should stop selling yourself short. Kojo Fori, how are you doing? Kaz, you're right. Ohinima says, hold on, I didn't pronounce that properly. Ohinin Nana, I think your name is. Very true what you are saying now. My ex-husband is a typical example. Typical example of what, babe? Tell me what you mean, I'll read it out. Good male role models are important. Yes, they absolutely are. Dardik Hamad, thank you for joining. Yomi Williams, my brother, how are you? Marie Armid says, children need both parents to work together as a team in bringing them up. However, it's not always possible. I have a son that I am bringing up on my own. His dad is still learning to find out how to do so. I make sure that my son understands what will be expected from him as a godly husband. If he continues to put God first, applies wisdom. If he continues to put God first and apply wisdom. I linked him up with positive godly male role models and make sure that I leave room for learning whilst bringing him up. And that's how you do it, ladies. That's how you do it, mums. We don't have all the answers. We can't be men, but we sure as hell can be good parents within our own right and able to teach our sons what they need to do to be balanced up here and in here and contribute to society and to their families and to their workplaces as they grow. Because as I said, people have different circumstances. You have men who are married to more than one wife. And no, they are not in the house raising all their children. They pay school fees. They do X, Y, Z. But in terms of necessarily being as present as they could be, it's going to be difficult, you know? Bella says, and I must add, it goes both ways. Some women are figuring motherhood out, but I think due to nature nurture, mothering comes easier to most women. Yep, that's another topic that we will be discussing as well. Sheila Amma says, I'm a single mother of 2 boys, but I was raised by my father. Never had a mother, but I believe I'm doing my best with my boys. Wonderful. That's brilliant. Yomi says, I was a single mum in my previous, oh, you need to be quiet. Nice topic. Yet not all parents are role models. There you go. Exactly the point that we've been making. Aisha Ankara said, the single most important aspect of being your children's role model is to always say what you mean and mean what you say. Walk the talk, back up your words with visible and concrete action, and be a man of integrity and value. Actions speak volumes. You feel me? I feel you. 100%. Thank you so much. Ade said, good points. Active versus passive role models. Yes, you know, some of our parenting is very, very passive. We're just there, but we're not doing anything. I taught. I teach. I'm a natural teacher, so long as it's not homework. That's where my skills go right out the window. Thank God Isabel is not in primary school, because, listen, she'll be in some cotton field picking cotton or something, because I don't teach. I'm very bad at that. Michelle Aquate, thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you here. Lynette Joseph says, as a lone parent, I seeked out role model. I think you meant to say, as a lone parent, I seeked out role models in society and organizations. That's good. The fact is, I became resourceful, even taught my son how to play football. You see, there you go. I don't even know what to say, because what you're saying is just the fact. Who else's comment am I going to read out? Michaela Joyce Teta says, so true. Malcolm Pryor, how are you? Lovely to have you. I was thinking about you the other day. I haven't forgotten your Sunday lunch. As soon as lockdown is over, you'll be over at mine having your Sunday dinner. J Mess, the funk is in the house. How you doing? Nanchechiwa, thank you for being on here. I love you too. Sheila says, yep, my boys are not having it easy from me at all, but I know they will do good on women someday. And yeah, exactly. Denise says, amen to that. Yomi Williams is giving me the thumbs up. Ohinanana says, typical example of mummy's boys whose mum is married to his father. Okay, John Gordon says, I was hoping we'd go halves on the restaurant. Listen, you wouldn't let me pay even if I wanted to, so go away, John. I've never been on a date where any guy has said to me, I've only ever been taken out on dates where the men have been gentlemen and have wanted to treat me like an absolute queen. So I don't get all of this, you know, you must pay half or at least offer to, but I don't date such men. I'm sorry, I don't do that. Okay, so Ahinana says, the way she raised her son is very terrible, bad. Oh, I think that was in response to something. So guys, I think, you know what? You know, we've only got 3 minutes left. Okay, so right. This is where we end the Speak with Dilys show. As always, I have loved speaking to you. Another, you know, great conversation. You know, you guys always bring the flavor to the Speak with Dilys show. It's not just about me. It's about listening to your comments and listening to your experiences. So let me give you some names of people who were raised by women. Jay-Z, he ain't doing too badly. Eddie Murphy, Keanu Reeves, Pierce Brosnan, he was one of the James Bond. Samuel L. Jackson, 50 Cent, Jason Momoa. You know who Jason Momoa is? If you don't know who Jason Momoa is, he's that fine young gentleman married to, I think it's Lisa Bonet. Al Pacino, yeah, one of the best actors ever. Stephen Colbert, Michael Phelps, Martin Lawrence, Shaquille O'Neal, Jet Li. You remember Jet Li? Jet Li does all the Chinese movie. Jet Li, the one that does all the karate, he does all that kind of stuff. He's very famous actor. Jet Li, #1. So there you have it. So these are some amazing men at the top of their game, raised by single mother, right? So understand, stop being so stereotypical, thinking that just because the person is raised by single mother means they can't do what they need to do. They can do what they need to do. Jet Li is a perfect example of what he needs to do. So understand that that is a very, very good, perfect thing to show and to prove and to end my show, to tell you in conclusion that a person who is just a female can't raise a man. Jet Li, Jet Li, Jet Li. You know I'm crazy. So in conclusion, we are saying that it is possible. All things are possible for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Can I get a hallelujah? So it is possible. So guys, that is the end of the Speak with Dilys show. If you haven't shared this video, I would really appreciate it if you did, to keep this show alive. Lynette says we need part 2. I don't think I've ever done a show where people haven't demanded a part 2. I promise you there are so many things to speak about, and we will get there. So as I say, you know, in all you're getting, get understanding, and all things are permissible, not all things are wise. Tomorrow morning on Injection Radio, that is www.injectionradio.com. Your girl here is going to be with the Injection Radio crew. My breakfast show is called Speak with Dilys. It's on Injection Radio at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. What can you expect? Now, I'm going to give you a heads up on what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Now, I was going to continue this conversation, but I changed my mind. What we're going to be talking about tomorrow is about British citizenship. What does it mean to be a British citizen? And if you are a person of color, can you rely indefinitely on being a British citizen? Why are we having this topic? Because the young lady that went to join ISIS, who is now in Bangladesh, I believe, she has had her British citizenship revoked. And I really want to have this conversation on radio tomorrow. Make a note of this number, 07513133103. I need you guys to call in. Do not leave me hanging. on air tomorrow, I will give you the number that you can text in your comments. If you were on my show last week, which was my first one, I was damn nervous, but let me tell you, I play some banging music, man. Trust me. Yeah. Yes. Somebody said that I'm multi-talented. Well, I'm trying to be a little bit of a DJ, but actually I'm not. But you are going to hear some wicked music tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Injection Radio. Make sure that you tune in and show your girl some love. You want to be set up for a Monday morning and the rest of the week to just be chilling. Y'all need to tune in to injectionradio.com. So guys, that's it. Thank you for spending your Sunday night with me. Ever grateful. I think you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much for your contributions. And on a very, very serious note, you know, we've seen, I called out some names of some amazing people on top of their game who have been raised by single mothers, different ethnicities, you know, white, black, Asian, they're all there. I believe Barack Obama was raised by his mum for some time. You know, he was being raised by a single parent at some point, and he turned out being the first black president of America. Let me tell you something, all things are possible, okay? Don't ever believe that anything, any circumstance can limit you, yeah? Some of us have become single parents because we've lost husbands, or we've been divorced, or we've just been dumped, or we've been denied, or the child has been denied, and that's how we found ourselves in those situations, or we've fled domestic violence. Whatever the situation may be, don't let anybody tell you as a mother that you're not good enough or that you cannot do it. You absolutely can do it. Keep on doing it. You're doing a great job. It's hard, it's tough, but you know, just grin and bear it for that bit longer, because you're making an amazing investment in your son. And if you keep at it and continue to grow yourself, even if they are a little bit wayward, I can guarantee you that they will absolutely be who they need to be. So thank you very much. I'm 2 minutes over my time. Thank you so much. And I just want to say, I do appreciate you guys. Please do join me tomorrow morning on Injection Radio. And I will see you there. Thank you very much. See you next week. Take care, guys. And of course, you will be told what the topic will be for next week. Next week will be the 9th episode, number 13, and then we're done. Have a good evening, guys. God bless. Take care.